Hello everyone, this is Mr. Shaver speaking. I'm going to do a brief demonstration on how to make a slab. I will show you this in class, but this is here in case you need to see it again, or if you missed the demonstration, it'll be up here. Just a little helpful video on how to make a clay slab. So, I got a little setup here. I have some canvas on my table that really helps to keep the clay from sticking to the table. I have a rolling pin, which I will use at the end of making my slab. Actually, I also have these measuring sticks so that if you want to roll a very even slab, you can use those. I will show you how. I have my name on a piece of paper written in crayon so that it's not going to bleed when it gets wet. And I have some boards to store my work on. And then, of course, I'm going to have a bag that I will put my work in later so it does not dry out. If you just leave the clay out, it will dry out. So that's what the bag is for. Okay, so slabs are really, really useful. You can use them to do flat work or wall hanging work. So this is a student example. It's been carved into and painted. So you can see it's basically a tile slab project. I have used slabs in slump molds, so you can push them into a mold and make different shapes for plates, etc. You can use them for building boxes and vases and other structures. So they're really useful. You can make them smaller, so you can cut pieces out and add them to things, but it's really good to know how to make a slab, which is why we're going to start with this. So first thing you want to do is grab a piece of clay. I recommend about a softball sized piece of clay, depending on what you're doing. I got my clay directly from the pug mill. Without wedging it, but if you really want a consistent piece of clay, you're going to want to wedge it. And that'll be a different video. So first thing you want to do is you're going to warm the clay up. All right, that's literally just smacking it around, and you're transferring the kinetic energy from your hands and the action into the clay, and just kind of warm it up. It doesn't need to be a perfect circle or perfect sphere for you to start with. We're just going to want to get the clay moving, so it's going to work with us. Okay. Now, when I'm making a slab, I am not so much worried about how big I'm going to make it. If I don't get the right size, I can make another one. I'm worried about how thick I'm going to make it. If we're making something where we're going to add it to something later, we want to be on a little bit thinner side. If you're using it structurally or for a plate or something, you want to go on the thicker side. But the difference is between the two is not much. This is what I use. We don't want to go much thinner than your pinky. We don't want to go much thicker than your pointer finger. If it gets much thicker than your pointer finger, it's going to have trouble drying. It's going to look kind of chunky. You can carve into it more. So it kind of depends on what you're doing, but I wouldn't go much thicker than that. And if you go too much thinner than your pinky finger, you're going to have problems with it drying too quickly. Okay, so you want to be kind of somewhere between here and here. There's wiggle room, but this is a good guide. All right, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to press and flip the clay. I'm not going to mash the clay down, right? I'm going to press it and I'm going to flip it over. I'm going to use the fat part of my hand to do this, not your fingers, because those are just going to leave marks. And I'm actually going to be kind of using my whole body, which is why I wanted to make a video so you could, from this angle, so you could see. So I'm going to push it right onto the canvas here. I'm going to press it. I'm going to flip it over. And I'm pressing it from the middle out towards the sides. And I'm trying to keep the middle and the sides the same thickness. Sometimes if you thin the sides out, it's really hard to tell when you're looking at it like this that the middle might actually be way thicker than the sides. So what we're trying to do is essentially like the shape of this slab doesn't matter because we can cut whatever we want out of this. We're just worried about trying to get it even. So you can see here, it's pretty even. It's pretty close to being my index finger at this point. So that means this one is almost done. That didn't take long. What I like to do for myself is I like to flip it a few times and kind of stretch it out and use gravity to help me out. And then the last thing I'm going to do is, like I said, you can use these, you don't have to, but I'll show you how. So these have the same thickness. You can use almost anything for this as long as they have the same thickness on both sides. I'm going to put it on either side of my slab, then I can use my rolling pin. What this is going to do is make sure that I'm not smashing it too far, and it's going to make everything even. And you're not trying to like really get after it, right? This is a finishing technique. I'm just finishing this slab off. Flip it over, finish it off. This is the slab. This one's done. Okay. Now, let's say that you messed up. Don't take that slab and immediately crumple back up the slab and then try again. What that's going to do is it's going to cause air bubbles. You're going to trap air inside the clay. And it's not like a bubble, like a circle. It's like a long, flattened air bubble. And when it gets fired in the kiln, if there's a big air bubble in there, the air molecules need to get out and they get heated up. They're going to pop out of your clay. If you see an air bubble, you can try and poke it out. But if there's a lot of them, it's best to just go get a new piece of clay and try again. So that's one slab done. I'm going to put it on my board. And now I'm going to make another one real quick so you can see this one more time. So it might be helpful to you. So again, warm it up. Now we do have something called a slab roller, but I really like to teach you guys how to do this by hand first, so you get a real good feel for the clay. Because if you can make a slab, there's lots of options you have for it, and it gives you a good idea of what the clay can and cannot do. So I'm going to put these aside. I'm going to do one more press and flip. Now I'm going to probably work a little faster than you. I've done hundreds of these demonstrations and made a ton of slabs. So again, it depends on what you're doing with the slab, how thick you want it to be. Now this one is a little on the thicker side almost, but I'm going to roll it out. Flip it a couple more times. See, I'm rolling it right off the edge, and I'm not trying to flatten the edges out, so I know how thick the middle is. Now, ta-da! Now, what you'll notice is that these slabs are very flimsy right now. What I highly recommend doing, what I always do, is I will make my slabs ahead of time, like a day ahead of time or so. I will stack them up, so I put a piece of dry paper towel in between there. I will put my name on top, and I'll put this entire thing in the bag. Just kind of tuck the bottom under, and then I'm going to put it away just like this. Now they're not going to dry out all the way, but they'll dry a little bit, which makes them a lot more useful for building, for cutting, for carving, for textures, etc. So that is how to build a slab. I hope that was helpful, and I'll see you guys in class.